Victoria, and we are getting started with Triangle Empowered, where knowledge is power. Today, well, the month of October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And today we're going to sit with Charnessa Ridley, the Deputy Director of the North Carolina Council for Women and Youth Involvement. Good afternoon, Charnessa.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
October is when it comes to Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Sometimes it gets kind of overshadowed, so we don't have the resources or women don't know where to go for situations like this. And I wanted to know, as far as like, what is the Council for Women and Youth Involvement?
So, North Carolina Council for Women and Youth Involvement is a division of the North Carolina Department of Administration. So, we are a state agency that creates awareness about the status of women across North Carolina. We collect data from victim service providers across the state. We also hear feedback from our regional directors, and we also get feedback from the boards and commissions that we work with. And we use that data to then advise the governor, other state officials, and leaders in North Carolina on the issues that impact women, specifically gender-based violence and violence against women's issues. Like you said, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and that is recognized nationally. And we use so many different partnerships in order to raise awareness of these issues that our data tells us about. One of those partnerships being our collaboration with you all, which we are appreciative of because the platform really helps us to kind of engage and inform people. When you think about domestic violence, and I think about how it impacts the majority base that of your listeners, which are black and brown people, I think that, and for so many of us, the reality is that we are intimately aware of domestic violence, so much so that it's almost become a rite of passage, right? That because it happened to my grandmother or because it happened to my mother, then therefore it feels normal that it happens to me. And so my hope and my goal is that the work of the council is that we are able to make the resources and the services that are available even more visible to communities, so they'll be equally as aware of the services that are available to them as they are with the prevalence of the crime, and that it exists in all communities, despite race and across all socioeconomic statuses.
Okay, and you kind of went to my next question. So, how do you feel that the Council for Women work on behalf of survivors and victims of domestic violence?
We do both of those things. But first, I want to give you a layout of North Carolina and how our state looks. So North Carolina has 100 counties, and those 100 counties are served by either a dual or a standalone victim service provider. So when I say dual provider, I mean a provider who serves victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. And if they are a standalone, then it means that they only serve one or the other. So only domestic violence or only sexual assault. It's also important to note that those same agencies also respond to situations of human trafficking as well as stalking. Council for Women plays a crucial role for those agencies because we are a funder for those agencies. We award grants to the victim services community service centers across our state. We monitor and ensure accountability for over $12 million in grants. So the agencies that are funded by the Council for Women, they provide a wide range of services to their communities. Those services can look like accompaniment to the hospital. It can look like court services, counseling, shelter services. They also offer hotline and general information and advocacy. In the fiscal year of 2020 through 2021, the domestic violence agencies that were funded by Council for Women actually served 67,847 clients. And so the funding that we were able to put into the state really went to make sure that those services were available, so that those over 60,000 people were able to get the help that they need. Also, during that same time period, 93,240 calls were placed into the hotlines of those agencies that our agency funds. We don't only provide financial assistance, we also do a lot of support and hand-holding and encouragement that we can do for our actual programs. And so even though we ourselves don't provide provide direct services, meaning that a survivor couldn't call our agency and get the immediate help that they need. We would refer them back to their local provider. We do provide services to the agencies and to increase their capacity to make sure that when they receive those phone calls or when they receive those walk-ins from those victims, they're able to help them. How we provide them with support is that we have regional directors. So we have 4 regional directors, and they are geographically located across the state. And within the intentionality behind that is so that they're more accessible to the programs that they provide some oversight and some management to. And so those region directors they perform site visits, and they assist those programs with anything from fiscal management and responsibility and budgeting to also include any training elements. So what do you need to make sure that your services are create the most best practice type of situation where survivors are welcome, where they are, want to seek your services, where you are actually capable of addressing the needs that they have. We make sure that the programs that we fund don't have to create those wheels themselves. We actually help them to put those plans in place to make sure that they can provide those services. We do a lot of that work in collaboration with the State Domestic Violence Coalition, and so they do a lot of our training aspects as well. And so, like I said originally, in partnership with several other folks and agencies that are interested in the well-being of women, we partner with them to make sure that we can make our program stronger.
So what else do you all do to support any other programs that'll interrupt the cycle of violence?
Absolutely. So one thing I did not mention is that we, in addition to administering state funds, we are also the pass-through agency for a federal fund called the Family Violence Prevention Services Act. And so that money comes into our state from federal funding, and then we disperse that money to programs across our state who are dedicated to doing the necessary work to create programming or policies and process that's going to do one of 3 things. It either can interrupt first-time perpetration or first-time victimization, or it can be used for programs that are going to reduce the impact and risk factors for future violence. So what can we do to make sure that violence is interrupted? What can we do to make sure that we can create services that can be duplicated across multiple communities? And the goal of those services be to lessen people's susceptibility to be a victim of domestic violence. And so that research is really important, and we're really happy to fund programs who also prioritize that. In addition to victim services work, the council was actually granted the authority to approve abuser treatment programs, and this happened in 2002. And so those abuser treatment programs are utilized by North Carolina court systems. We refer to them as DVIP, and that stands for Domestic Violence Intervention Programs. These are abuser treatment programs that are designed to re-educate offenders on their behavior and to help them develop new methods of interacting with partners and family. From my experience working in victim services, and I have also done direct services, I know that more often than not, when that victim is assaulted, let's say it's by their husband, that person wasn't always someone who assaulted them. There was a period where there was a honeymoon period and things were just not volatile, things were not violent. What I have found is that most situations, folks want to keep their families together. Right. They want to keep their families together, but they want their families to be safe. Right. And so I think one of the benefits of a DVIP program is that for folks who are interested and who want that type of help, who want that type of intervention, they're able to do some programming so they can deprogram themselves from the things that maybe they've learned, or things in terms of, coping skills and communication and all the other things that are rooted in what it means to have healthy relationships. They walk that journey journey and they learn how to do things better, for the purpose of, that family staying together and also that family being safe. We, specifically thinking about, women who may be in love with their spouses, they want the abuse to stop, right? They want the abuse to stop, and they still may love their spouse. And I just want to affirm to anyone who's listening to this that that's absolutely normal. We also know that it takes about 7 times for when someone experiences abuse before they ever may have the courage to leave. For some, it stops after that second time. It stops after that first time. And the reason why it stops is because someone has reached out for help, whether that help be with victim providers, or DVIP programs to help get the tools that family needs to be healthy, so that you can be back on that track of, healthy and whole families that are free from violence. And so we want any harm doer, we want any victim that wants to maintain relationship and community with the person who's abused them to have an avenue to do that safely. And DVIP can be one of those avenues where they can remain in community with that person that they love who has caused harm, for the purpose of that harm eventually stopping. And so we count at the council, we approve and give the authority for those programs. The DVIP programs in our state currently operate in 63 different counties, and that's a program that is completed over 26 weeks. Some of the programs are provided in Spanish, and some are also online, so that affords more people who have caused harm with the opportunity to actually utilize the services. It is a service that is granted by way of a court order, and so there's a lot of accountability around what that might mean, in order for people to access it and then be successful in that as well.
Wow, that's so powerful as far as just being able to be available and these resources available. So for people, who are probably going through this or know somebody going through this or just want to have these resources when they see something, they want to say something, where can they get this information from?
So the first thing I want folks to know, if someone comes to you and they share that they've experienced harm or some sort, be supportive, right? That was typically not an easy thing for someone to share, but the fact that they felt comfortable enough to share it with you means that they've already seen something in you that says that you have the empathy and the compassion to hold what it is that they're telling you. So know that you don't have to have all the answers, as long as you're able to, hold what they say in confidence, and also, to support them whenever you can. After you give them that initial support and empathy, the next thing we want you to do is get them connected with the professionals across our state who can actually respond to their experiences. You can find our website, which is going to be North Carolina admin, ADMIN, .nc.gov. And so when you go there, you're going to be on our homepage. From our homepage, if you navigate down to believe it says advocacy programs and services. Once you're there, you'll see a list of all the divisions, and we'll be that first division. And again, we are the Council for Youth Involvement. On our page, you can find several things about our team. You can find information about the mission of the division. You can also see some of the status of women reports that we have put together with some of the data I spoke about earlier. But one of my favorite parts of the whole website is going to be the interactive maps that we have. Those maps are actually going to give you a list of all the providers in the state that we fund to do domestic violence and sexual assault services, as well as those DVIP programs. And so, share that website with anyone who may be interested, and they can definitely use that website to find the local shelter or the local DV agency that's in their community.
That is amazing. I thank you very much, Charnessa, for all the information. For anybody who is following, needs to know the information, we will also have this on our websites, and this is available to everyone. So again, October is the month of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Please and thank you for watching. Again, this is Triangle Power, where knowledge is power. Thank you.
Thank you.